Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Pivot Podcast. My name is Charlie River Morrow. I am an Akashic record reader, and here on the Spiritual Podcast, we are a podcast about the chaos of running your own spiritual business and the life pivots that got you there. I am so excited to have Julie Williams with us today. Julie is an herbalist and owner of Leaf People Skincare, and just the conversations that I have been able to have with Julie that have to do with the Akashic Records, but also just with the life that she has been living, with the spiritual business that she has been owning and has been operating and will continue to be growing and expanding in the things that she is offering and doing are they're so exciting. I'm so excited to jump into asking questions. I've already written down five or six. I can't wait to get into more. But before we do, Julie, I would really appreciate if you would introduce yourself to all of our listeners and just let us know who you are, what it is that you are actively doing, and anything else that you've got on your heart right now.
Well, thank you, Charlie. It's so wonderful to be here and to reconnect with you again. Yes, so I am the owner and herbalist of Leaf People Skincare, and we've been in business now for 22 years. And so I really use a lot of my spiritual practices in the development of the company as well as the development of the formulas. And currently, we're kind of always in an ever expansion in terms of our products and our offerings, formulating new products, different ways of getting them out into the world. And so that's like an ongoing project that occurs here and is always like under the guidance of the Akashic Records, different meditation practices, different types of energy work. I utilize those different methodologies to keep myself open, to the messages, to where things should go in a way that's most aligned to my highest good, but also the highest good of the botanical world. Like that's really the focus is how to best serve the botanicals. And
Awesome.
then along with that, I've got some kind of personal side projects in exploring more of that relationship of service to the botanical world and how to get that presented to the public. And those I'm sure will segue into part of the business.
Yeah. So the
Mhm.
botanical world is admittedly one that I have very little understanding and experience in, and I would love to know how did you get into this? How did you get into a world where you are utilizing energy work and intuitive work and the Akashic records to create botanical assistance and medicine for everyone? How did you get into this?
Well, it started when I was very young. I grew up in Alaska in a very rural area, and I remember as a child, my mom teaching me to talk to plants,
Oh,
and we would spend all this time in the garden, or even where I grew up was quite wild. So we had limited garden areas, but we were surrounded by forest. And so we were always like talking about the stories of the plants and, having like just building whole little worlds with the plants that lived around us and listening to their messages and asking them questions. And so I grew up with this just as a part of my lifestyle. And then as I got older and moved away from home, I ended up actually living in Australia for a while. And there I met like my first proper herbalists, people
yeah.
trained in herbal medicine, practicing, working in herbal medicine. And that was when it kind of clicked in my mind, like, oh, this can be a way of life. This can, like, you can actually do this as a professional and make money, and this can be, a way of living. And so I was on a quite a long trip at that stage, with the goal of hitting all the major continents in the world.
Mm.
And so I made that a goal in each stop was to like study botanical medicine and indigenous medicine, like everywhere that I went along the way.
Wow.
And so I spent most of my time in different countries in South America where I got to really dive deep into those relationships with the plants. I spent a lot of time in the Amazon, doing different types of plant diets and studying different plant meditations, and really clearly like honing in my skills of how to um, talk to them. Like in the beginning, I guess it was more in a meditative state to really communicate with them and get their messages. Um, but then it's kind of like anything. Once you sort of become more fluent in that language, just you can do it without having to go into a meditative state. Like that veil is lessened
Mm.
between our existence in this form and their existence in their form. Like those veils become lessened, so you can actually tap in and talk to them much more easily
Yeah.
without the effort of trying to get into a state to do that.
And when did you start getting into plant as product? Because typically, when I've spoken to folks who are doing herbalist medicine, they perhaps have things, but it is still usually more of a service based experience. And most spiritual businesses that I'm familiar with are more service based, not as much product based. When did that start to become
Yeah.
part of your experience and part of your continued journey?
Yeah, so that occurred partially because I also live in a rural area of Colorado now.
Mm.
And when I was in school for botanical medicine up here, so I studied kind of in two styles. I did the old world traditional style where I had a teacher. My teacher actually just transitioned 2 years ago, but we had like a 20 plus year relationship, kind of that, teacher student
Mm-hmm.
type relationship. And then I do have the botanical teachers in South America that were the same type of relationship, and I studied with them for very long periods of time. And then I also went to a Western school up here in Colorado to learn the more Western style with all the chemical constituents and, the different plant actives and how to blend and the, energetics and things like that. And so it came to me more in school because I was hitting the point where I was done with my education. And if I wanted to go into clinical work, I was going to have to um, like apprentice under a clinician, an herbalist clinician, for a year or two. And there just weren't any in our area.
Mm.
And so that meant I would have to move, find somebody, move, apprentice under them, and then potentially come back to where I lived to start my own clinical practice. And I just wasn't going to move. I wasn't going to do that. And this was long before, I've been in this business for over 20 years. So this was long before Zoom or kind of being able to do it in another type of way. The only way was to like physically be there. And so, and I'm a maker by heart. I was a ceramic artist for many, many years. And I grew up again with our lifestyle in rural Alaska. We canned all our own food. We preserved things. We made jams. Like, we were always like, if you needed something, you basically made it.
Mm.
And so that's also a big part of my nature. And so it was kind of at that pivotal point. It was probably my first big pivot in school where it's like, okay, I'm not going to move away to study under this other clinician. I'm going to go into making things. And at the time, there were two avenues at that time. One was to go into like tinctures and internal medicines, which was very popular, but there were so many of those companies already existing. And so, the business mind kicks in like, how do you differentiate yourself from the field?
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I could be as strong enough of a differentiation. But at that time, like really high quality organic skincare products that featured, a beautiful variety of medicinal plants didn't really exist. There were a few companies out there doing some good work, but the botanicals that they showcased were pretty limited, calendula, chamomile, you know, um, kind of the standards. And I really wanted to create something that showed a much wider range of what the botanical world has to offer. And so I decided to go into that direction, which, the in herbal medicine school, they teach you how to make herbal medicine. They don't really teach you how to make skincare products. So that was like turned into a whole nother education of like, how do I make really beautiful creams and things that are aesthetically pleasing that still work, but also include all of these plants.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was like kind of another path that I went on after my education process. And and it was very fortunate. I had a lot of friends at that time who were estheticians that worked in spas and especially here in Aspen, some very high-end luxury spas. So I would make my formulas and I would give them to them and they would use them in the treatment rooms and come
Wow.
back and be like, oh, it's, that worked really well on their skin, but it like didn't smell that great, or something. And so, so then I like fine tune and do it again with a better smell or a better absorption rate or a better, whatever it was that they were looking for, so that it would be really effective and applicable in the treatment room. And that was also a key piece in how the products were developed.
Wow. So you really were so methodical with this by not only first going and it sounds like really and truly you gathered a global education
Mhm.
and built it. I'm just so incredibly amazed at the level of dedication that you put into this, seemingly without knowing that this is where you were heading.
But yeah, no, I didn't really have a plan, It's sort of, we'll do this
Yeah.
next, and then we'll do that, and then these things build on each other, and then the vision comes. Because the only real like direct message I got, I was studying in Bolivia, and we were spending with my teacher, and we were spending most of our time in the Amazon, and it was in some of those practices and those kind of meditation, like we'd be in there for a week, 2 weeks at a time. And the main message that came from the plants there and the plant spirits was that I was to be like a voice for them, like I was to be the conduit that gets their message from their form as a plant, like out into the world, to build something that would interface between the plants and the person so that their like direct energetic message could come into the human.
Nice.
And so that's kind of where the products came from. It's like, well, what's going to do that? And it's, well, skincare will do that because we can take that vibratory essence, that messaging, keep it alive in the bottle. And so that when you put it on, that's just going directly into your body.
Yeah. That is absolutely beautiful. So, as you've gone through this process and you've done this iterative work and you've been making formulas, testing them, ex- providing them with a constant ongoing expansion, contraction, fix, expansion, contraction, fix, the standard product testing and business creation. When at any point in that did things pivot in the business itself, or has this been just a sort of continual grow, expand, grow, expand? How has it been over the last 20 years? As yes, as everything in the world has kind of shifted in a very large way.
Well, I think I mean, we might be kind of into a pivot now where so I started in very one-on-one care with like massage therapy and energy work and things like that with people. And then I got into the study of botanicals and decided to start this company. And then now I think I'm kind of in a pivot where I'm going to go back to um, a form that will be still dealing with people, but in a different way. But more to your question is the kind of with being an entrepreneur and starting a business like this, like you kind of get so far into it where like you just got to hit the gas and keep going. There's not really you're like you've started so much stuff and you're so committed that
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't really draw back and completely shift gears or shift lanes, because it kind of takes on a life of its own. And so I would say, from the inception of Leaf People and the creation of the products and stuff, I probably had a window in the first couple of years where I could have, made a shift if I had wanted to. But then by that time, it's like, it's now like it's do or die. Like I gotta make this thing work or give it up, And so it has been sort of running on its own kind of expand, contract, repeat, grow cycle for quite a long time. But that's also because there is that sort of 3D reality of I've got it, my business has to survive,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
plays in.
And while you've been doing this, just because I'm so deeply curious about the tangible business product versus the spiritual service product that exists, you've done both.
Hmm.
And in that, where do you see the levels of your own creativity and your own capacity for continuing to expand the product business itself too in the service? I'm asking very different questions here. I kind of want to hear what your compare and contrast of those two experiences has been. And if you hadn't been doing the services, how do you think it would have impacted your attempt at creating this in the first place? Was it a necessary step? Does it feel like it was sort of a superfluous step to have services before product?
Um, I mean, I think for me, they're both so close. So, in terms of how it's, we can follow up on this question if I'm not answering exactly what you're
Mm-hmm.
asking, but um, for me, like how it's played out with the products is that, yes, we have products that really change the look of your skin. They make you look more radiant and more alive and more vitality and kind of they're designed to kind of get you into the best state of yourself.
Yeah.
And but the feedback, and I do get feedback on that level from people, but the feedback that I get a lot that I wasn't necessarily expecting is how the products make people feel about themselves. How
Mm-hmm.
using them makes them feel. They feel like um, they love themselves more. They can be kinder to other people. Like it brings out this a little bit of like an opening of the heart through this act of self-care, which I know self-care is so overused these days, but
Right.
that's, a lot of them feel like they're really nourishing themselves through a good product that, is nutritionally sound and has all these medicinal plants and is well balanced and things like that. And so that changes how they feel about themselves, about life, about the world, about their relationship to nature, their kids, their job, like whatever it is. And so that is really that to me is kind of the service side of it,
Mm-hmm.
coming together with the manufacturing side. And it's a really beautiful harmony. And I don't know, I'm such a like emotional and empathic kind of person, highly sensitive, too sensitive often. And so I don't, if I wasn't able to like kind of touch people in that way, I don't know if it would have been as fulfilling to me to do.
Thank you. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad you mentioned also being highly empathic, being highly sensitive, because that is one question I really have for anyone who manufactures is there is inevitably a level of competition in any kind of manufacturing space. I mean, in any business, but especially in a manufacturing space, and especially for a skincare line, just due
Brutal.
to just
Yeah.
due to where we are, right? Where we are
Right.
in late stage capitalism. And
Hmm.
I want to know how you have navigated that, being highly empathic, being highly sensitive, in really just a way that is keeping you grounded and is keeping the product being so heart centered and being so exactly what you just described, being something that nourishes on a soul level in a way that could absolutely be seen as just another skincare product, because it
Hmm.
is it is it is a manufactured part of what is in our entire zeitgeist for self-care, but buy this kind of
Hmm.
line of work. But that's not what you're doing, and that's not where
Right.
it's coming from, and that's not what's informing it. What's informing
Right.
it is earth and is
Hmm.
what you can do to alleviate parts of yourself that need it. So how have you been able to coexist with the competition, I guess would be the best way to put that.
So a couple of my tactics are, or have been and still are, is, one, we're completely self-manufactured. So we make everything from the plant forward. So I've got a lab with all these dried plants and raw materials and ingredients, and we do all of our own extractions and, blending everything like to the bottle, it's completely vertical.
Mm.
And and the beauty of that is that I can really, I have time with the raw ingredients, with the materials to communicate with them, to meditate with them, I do Reiki while I'm working. Like I work often, like if I'm in production and I'm actually making stuff, I have my records open. And I'm really, kind of deep listening to the formula, to the ingredients, the plants that are in there, and just keeping that relationship open, and keeping that kind of energy flowing. And so that keeps me just grounded in the true essence of what I'm doing. It doesn't allow me to lose like my job of service. Like I am
Right.
in service. And so I stay aware of that all the time when I'm manufacturing. Like I am in service, to these beings, to this spiritual entity that is in this other form that has come here, that is such a key part of our existence. And so that is one way that I keep it alive. And then the other thing that helps me a lot is I don't look at the competition. Like
Yeah.
I try to stay very disengaged from, which I mean, in some ways, I guess as a business person is not the best idea, but I have to stay totally unplugged from what everybody else is doing and just stay like true on my path, serve my path, serve the botanicals, serve the business. I mean, obviously, I touch in enough to stay educated enough to keep doing what I'm doing, but I try to really stay out of other people's messaging, what their brands are about, what seems to be popular on Instagram, like just stay on my own path. And it's interesting because, like as an example, we were working, or I was working with like reishi and ginkgo and ashwagandha and gotu kola and some of these plants in skincare, here in the West. Obviously this has been going on probably in the East for much longer, but in the West, we were one of the early companies using those types of botanicals. And um, one way that I tried to, that I stayed in touch with our clientele was I've always done like the local farmers markets, like in the
Mm.
summertime, that's the only time of year you can come, you can meet me, you can talk, you can ask questions, whatever you want. Like I'm available during the summertime for that. And when I started, so many of our customers were just like, they're like reishi or what's this ashwagandha? What is this, plant? And, having trouble pronouncing them and didn't recognize them at all. And um, so that put me a little bit in kind of like this strange or esoteric category. But then over like, I would say it took about 10 years probably, where people started shifting and they'd be like, oh, ashwagandha. Like I take that internally,
Mm.
or my naturopath or my friend or whoever, said I should take that, or I'm, thinking about trying one of those coffees that has reishi in it. What do you think? And so that kind of that shift in that growth,
Mm.
um it was a beautiful thing to see, and kind of helped in a certain way, yeah, sort of normalize what I was doing.
That's
But I
wonderful.
have gone through these periods of sort of being like before the curve, and then the curve comes and it's like, okay, yeah, what I'm doing is okay. Where the years leading up to it's like, am I crazy for putting these
Yeah.
things in here? And then it's like, oh no, it's just I was just a little early, but it's all coming on now and it's going to be fine.
And I love so much. I love so much that you are just referring to. I refer to as just maintaining your quantum disentanglement. You're not getting involved with what other people are doing to chase money and to
Right.
chase being seen, and you're actively making conscious choices to disengage from hustle culture,
Yeah.
from what it is that I have seen kind of pervasive in folks who are attempting to start a spiritual business, and especially folks who have been through any sort of spiritual awakening and are learning about things and feeling like it's what they are called to do too. They kind of want to jump straight into it. They kind of want to go go go. Okay, I know what I want to do and let's go.
Mhm.
How has the rate of growth for you been your best teacher? I know that's a very leading question, but how has the over time of where things have gone to where you are now benefited where you are now?
Yeah, I think, well, so my whatever it is I'm doing is best received when it, purely comes from the heart and I am totally disengaged from, the hustle culture or just other people's opinions or whatever it is. And that, I had a probably 15, 20 year uh, stint with ceramics prior to starting Leaf People. I was a ceramic artist, and it was the same with my clay work. As long as I was just really building and doing stuff from my own heart that was my own mind or whatever, that was just purely my vision, like that, those were the best received pieces. And as soon as I like went into the headspace of like, oh, I'm gonna try to monetize this, like maybe I'll, this seems to be a popular form or a popular thing, I'll make some of those and see what happens. And it was always like terrible. I mean, not that the pieces were terrible, but it just like it did not resonate with people. And if I went back to just what was like my true vision, my feeling, my heart, my soul speaking through my body into the work, then that was what was best received. And it's the same with Leaf People, I mean, we have, I mean, I've jumped on the bandwagon of a couple ingredients, of course, over the years just to see what would happen. And those always ends up being like the least popular items. And when I'm just kind of doing my thing and meditating with the plants and following my protocol and really developing and putting out into the world what is my own like creative voice, those are always the ones that do the best.
That's such good advice, and just a good thank you for saying that, because it's always just it's difficult, it feels like sometimes, to maintain the feeling of know what I need, know what I feel, know what I know is good,
Hmm.
when there is kind of an constant onslaught
There's
of
so much noise. Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
could be. And that's the thing. It's what could be based on what others are doing, often without the in-depth understanding of what it is that goes into it, because the beautiful way in which you may not only use everything that you've brought, but you I've never heard of someone who's done skincare that infuses Reiki into it or has their Akashic records open while they do it. And
Right.
I'm so curious, when did you start adding those pieces into what you were doing? Was it there from the very start, or is that something that you sort of picked up along the way as you were learning and growing in this?
Yeah. No, I've been a Reiki practitioner since before starting the company. So I did, a lot of training in various styles of meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, different forms of energy work, and as well as massage therapy, um, and acupressure. I mean, all kinds of things. And so, and then the plant spirit medicine, that's another kind of type of meditation and includes, I would say includes, and then also the wild harvesting training. I went through very traditional, thorough wild harvesting training where you have to ask permission, you have to bring offerings. Like it's very complex and it's not only like kind of it's not only like, oh, I got to ask permission before I do this. It's like you have to actually embody that with your whole being and be able to do the activity of wild harvesting and talking to the plants and stuff while, you know what I mean? It's a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I think is a piece with wild harvesting that most people don't understand. It's like you can absorb the words and the protocol, but can you actually emanate that from your whole being while you do it? Like that's the training. And so circling back to the question, I'm kind of losing the explanation.
It's
How do
really
I?
it's really just a question of when, and this is specific because I read Akashic Records. It's a really a specific question too of
Oh,
how you
when did I
infuse.
kind of start? Yeah.
Yeah, when did you start
So
with the Akashic
yeah,
Records
so a
and doing
lot of
this
this
too?
yeah, so a lot of those things, the spiritual practices that comes with training in wild harvesting and the Reiki and those types of things, those all began at the beginning of the company. So that's always been there. And then the Akashic Records, I also went through a pretty radical and abrupt, I would say, next level spiritual awakening that started June 2nd of 2024. And to be specific. And so then that opened up the level of the Akashic Records coming in, and since then I've been doing other types of training to access different frequencies and different levels of our soul body, of our consciousness, and things like that, and what wants to be a part of what I do, what wants to be included, what can help, things like that. So that's kind of my current path, is really like exploring this new realm that I have access to that I didn't before, starting since about a year and a half ago.
Wow. So as you've leveled up, you're kind of infusing that into your business too, and
Hmm.
into the products themselves, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
This is so just absolutely incredible. I'm just so I have so many more questions, but I really do. I want to get into your Akashic record reading. And before I do, I'm very curious. I'm going to pivot us just a little bit into, you've built this business. You have such a rich history in so many different areas, and you've been working with plants your entire life. When you're thinking about business, especially where it is right now, how far out do you think of what you'll be doing? How far does it tend to extend where based on where you are now? And when you do think into the future, what is it that you are hoping for? What is it that feels like you're expanding into?
I mean, my ideal plan, my ideal view is to, what I would love is for the company to be a legacy company that,
Mm.
would then go down to my, devoted staff, and then they would hire on more people, and it would kind of go down to them. It would just become this legacy company and a place where, people can come and, you know, learn about botanical medicine, learn about energy work, learn about whatever, and but have a place where they can actually live and exercise those skills into the world, into a tangible product that goes into the world um, in a way that is self-sustaining and self-supportive, and when I started Leaf People, one of the, it's like, do you go nonprofit or for profit? And, I decided nonprofit was way too stressful for me. I'm a little too type A to not know where the money's coming from and, try to wing that situation. So it's like, okay, we'll go for profit, but we have a charitable component. And so yeah, kind of keeping this business alive that will, that provides a place where other people with similar interests to me will have an opportunity to partake in this, to practice their skills, to practice their own, energy work or medicine making or whatever it is. And, so I guess sort of the pure path, would have it to be a legacy that continues on
Wow.
and is just, handed down. Same as like it also keeps it in that old world style of, master student. The student becomes the master, gets another student, becomes the master, gets another student. Like the company could keep transitioning in that way, onward.
So when you see future for your business, you see full future. No
Yeah,
continuation. That's
yeah.
incredible. And
And at some
mentorship
point,
piece.
I will, I'm kind of, as we'll maybe get to later in the podcast when we talk about the pivotal point, like I'm getting to a point where I'm closer, like, okay, I can see where I pivot out of the active daily activities of the company into something that is adjacent,
Mm.
in terms of the path, but that I'm doing, and the next person comes up and kind of takes over my spot and then continues on, and I just sort of, I'm like a consulting position or oversee or I'm just there for support, but I'll have sort of a thing that, yeah, runs next to it that will be like part of it in, philosophy and practice, but is not that.
Yeah. So, did you realize when you started this 22 years ago that being this level of a leader, that is not only a leader, but a legacy leader and someone who ensures an entire continuation process that becomes self sustaining, was that ever part of what you saw when you
No.
started this?
Yeah. No, it was, I mean, it was kind of funny when I started, there was, not a lot of support, at all. Everybody thought I was pretty nuts, for wanting to do this. And, so it was, and once I started making things, then, I got a little bit more support because people were like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing.
Mm.
But, especially in the planning phase, it was not well, received by others because I don't think they could like understand my vision. Um, but no, it's always been a bit of just kind of get through this phase and see what opens up, and then get through this phase and see what opens up. And so that has just developed over time.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
I say that just because it makes me sad that to say it feels so rare to have such a heart-centered leader creating something with the continual growth that has always been the through line and the heart of the plants themselves that have been leading you this entire time.
Hmm.
It's very it comes through so clearly that that's where it started and where it continues going through and is why it's legacy. You are the
Hmm.
leader, but you are not it.
Like I don't own it. Is right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It goes
Yeah.
back to the message from the jungle. Like I'm the conduit,
Yeah.
the piece that the information transfers through, but it's not necessarily mine.
Yeah.
I'm just, it can go through me.
How
Yeah.
can Here's my question you cannot answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Julie, how can you make it so that every single company is like this? How can you do that? Is that a thing that you're capable of doing?
Yeah.
I suppose simply by existing and doing the
Yeah.
work and being an example of that type of leadership, being an example of
Right.
that type of conduit, and to be an example of that type of conduit for the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not like a preachy person. I'm
Mhm.
not somebody who's gonna like tell you what to do, but I'm definitely a full believer in just lead by example.
Yeah.
Like just hold the space and do it yourself. And then those that are kind of meant to notice will notice. And maybe it will cause a little bit of a shift in them or in their world or how they do things. And then in their world, the people who are meant to notice will notice, and kind of, yeah, like that silent but steady.
Yes.
You know. Mhm.
I do have one more question before we get in your Akashic Records, and that's just for those who are listening who they are fellow makers, they are fellow artists, they are fellow herbalists, either in training or in that sort of recognition that it's maybe something that they did have, they may have put it down, they're ready to pick it back up and do something. Someone starting in this role of attempting to create and co-create in a space that we're currently in where
Mhm.
there may be products already, there may be people already doing it. Any advice for someone who feels the call to join you in this type of world, in this type of create because I'm a maker and because
Mhm.
I have what I know will benefit others? What would you advise them to do in this very short mentorship role that you're able to provide them in this conversation?
Well, you need to have a lot of tenacity. You have to have an absolute never give up attitude, like and it's relentless. I mean, you have to be prepared, like you're going to spend time where you're like standing at the edge of where the ocean waves are crashing and it's just like and the world or whatever it is maybe trying to stop you or slow you down in whatever particular way it is, whether it's, the red tape of starting an actual company and all the, business stuff that goes with that and
Yeah.
your accounting or, whatever it is. And the more mundane sides, because you've got to deal with the more mundane sides of it as well. And and the main thing is you have to just stay in your truth and power on, like in a way that is hard to imagine until you do it. Like that's the key. It's like if I had known what it was going to take to do this before I started, I wouldn't have done it, like at all, because it is so challenging on so many levels. But you have to just sink in and know, like, this is my path and nothing is going to stop me. Like, nothing is going to stop me. And I've had, over the years, like so many people in a loving, joking way, are just like, you're the hardest working person that we know. You're like, do you ever sleep? And it's like, and it's like, not really. You know what I mean? Like, this is my life. Like, this is my life. And you can either get on board or get out of the way. Like, those are the two options. And so you have to, like, whether it's a good day or a bad day, or people hate what you're doing or they love what you're doing, like, you have to really drill down and know where you are, and then just don't give up, you know? Yeah.
I love it. Wise words. Thank you so much. So, we are going to pivot into an Akashic record reading for your business, or if there's something else that's on your heart. And I'm going to take just a moment to sort of tune in. What question have you got today, Julie, that I can provide? Okay, I can leave glasses on this time. Good.
Well, I guess I'm interested in what the plants currently think about all of this, like with the path of leaf people and where we're going, just, from your reading. I mean, I talk to them all the time, but like what message do they have to add to what we've talked about today?
I Do you feel this jubilant every time you tap into your records and into the plants that you're working with? Because I have just received what I feel like I could call just little adorable fairy kisses. It went straight down here, just boop 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 boop. Is this
Mhm.
how jubilant you get? Is this where it goes for you?
Yeah, the
Oh,
botanicals are very happy, celebratory beings, for the
yeah.
most part. Obviously, stressed ones, maybe not so much, but no, they're very, and I've been told my records are very happy.
So okay, they're going to be there is a little bit of light code transmission that's just going to sort of come out in a moment. For that particular question, there is simply jubilation. We celebrate and wish that I see a large feast, basically. There is a desire for you to provide a level of personal celebration that you do not often provide, and I they're basically showing me that you would never do this, but they would very much love for you to give yourself a sash and crown as a bit of a. They want a celebration. There's Julie. Would you be willing to throw yourself a party, particularly with launching of new that you have already been established and planning? We request. Okay. Wow. There's a lot. There are so many right now. I'm going to have to take this in as a download and give it to you in just a second, Julie, because I've got a lot. Okay. There is a request for the next, and there's two very specific ventures that I am going to name um without naming. Okay, good. Two ventures that you will be undertaking this year in particular. The first involves this level of voice. They're just pointing to the actual throat. And then the other involving your hands, this level of voice. We wish to participate in you celebrating your next phase in a way that you will find overindulgent but allows you to participate with others in party, in festival. They want a multi-day festival. There is just so much jubilation in not only what it is that you have taken through the just everything that you have. They're basically just referring to your entire lived experience. From the start, there has just been the ongoing connection. That's a rarity for our kind with humans. It is too rare. We miss the connection with others. We miss the connection with humans. We have this. We have lost this. This does not exist for enough. It is becoming more, but we celebrate those that we regularly have communion with. We simply would enjoy the opportunity to be featured more in your celebration of what it is you do, who it is you are, what it is you have provided, and those you have also anointed along the way. You have pivoted many, thank you for my word, you have caused a life alteration for many. You do not celebrate this in your life. That is understandable. You are okay, they have a lot of words for the word humble, but you're humble. They have their own language for words. It's kind of fun. They don't like to use a lot of words. That was enough words. We simply want to see you celebrate yourself in ways that you are uncomfortable with, because we think that will be a fun experience that can be time limited and you do not have to do it again. Until you are ready for other separations from active duty. I need a second. That was really cute. That was really cute. Yeah, there's just this level of jubilant, playful joy and a an interest in returning to the childhood state of turning off responsibilities in a bit. There's sort of a like, there's sort of this larger, we understand, and where you are building to, there will be opportunities for different avenues. Interesting. So there's sort of a where you are now, it and business are heading here. You're not already coming. You've already come to this point where you're one of you, one side of you is still heading there, but most of you is heading here with a little bit of a shift around to figure out the next thing, and boo. So there is actually that separate point, but it is involving a next new that you have yet to uncover or experience, but will remember that you forgot. We've been excited to reintroduce you to this capacity, and we look forward to your... It's animal communication. That's all I've got. They're basically talking a lot. They want to guide you to a level of animal communication that's not for any sort of business or service. It's just so that you get to enjoy more direct, regular contact with all planet-wide. There's a level of communication openings. They're basically showing you as a little girl having more communication with animals. And there's an interest in that, not an interest, we are ready for this to be another piece of what it is that becomes your continued lived experience that inspires as well. As a, Yes, the word is advocate. Okay. As part of ongoing advocacy work,
Hmm.
basically. There's a level of and they keep showing like just the continued propping up because you will never stop. you, yeah, you will. Yes, they're kind of showing me as a the moose does not stop. The moose keeps going. Is kind of their maybe grazes and stops and allows for a moment but does not stop. Keeps going. We have more to say. Please let us keep talking. Okay. We we simply want to thank you for all that you provide. We appreciate and encourage all moments that you and loved ones share. For many will be shifting, and it is a challenge to say goodbye to what you have built. We want to celebrate each transition to new and appreciate what it costs for that to occur, for new results in removal as well. Our communion will never slow down with you, but your communion with those you have been establishing, everything is due for separation. We thank you for your service. We look forward to forever. It's the word. We look forward to the rest of every service you will be continuing to provide them and the planet.
Hmm.
Yeah. We are done. Thank you. Okay. That was the cutest thing I've ever experienced. They're just going to hang out for just a second. And I just want to check in with you. I have, what would you all describe yourselves as? Simply the energetic entities of those she has communed with. Thank you for allowing us a moment to re-encode for ease of separation purposes. So hopefully things will be a little bit easier, emotionally speaking, and on your central nervous system, because any transition is just hard.
Hmm.
It's just difficult. It's very difficult, and they are currently sitting in my hand. I just want to check in with you. How does all of I don't even remember what just came out of me. What how does that feel?
No, I feel had other powerful readings, I'd say by, quite accomplished readers. And they have brought up the animal communication thing before.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that is kind of a next step in the evolution. Is it kind of started with the plants, but then next I am is like supposed to move on to the animal kingdom. Hmm. I have
They're
heard
part of that transition for you, and it's
that.
it's so neat that what they really just showed this this continuation path, really. Like there's the through line of what you've been doing, and then sort of just this beautiful life of circling, not circling, but of following the same sort of movement of nature itself, which is this. Like
Right,
not our linear path, but the
right.
the flowing one. And to be connected to all of the botanicals, that is just an inherently more heart-centered way to live and more heart-centered way to operate and operate business. Is there anything else that you all would like to say? Because I'm gonna need to shut down. This is an incredibly powerful guidance team that you all that you have assembled with you. No, please celebrate yourself. We celebrate you in every moment. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and they did truly show just they like a multi-day launch party for the next. I'm not even kidding. There was sort of a we need a long weekend of it. We need like just because when you celebrate you and you really do allow others to celebrate you as well, they sort of get a chance to have moments of ride-alongs, is the way that
Mhm.
I've had them refer to it before, where they almost get a chance to indulge in being human alongside you.
Mhm.
When we have moments of celebration and you are in communion with all of these, they get a chance to kind of pop in and be part of that experience too. And that's
Mhm.
just a really fun. It's just fun. They don't tend to get to do that very often. It sounds
Right.
like.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So
Yeah.
there's an encouragement of please celebrate yourself. Please celebrate the things that do excite you and that you're moving into and starting, because it is deeply aligned and they're part of it. They will
Mhm.
continue to be part of it. Yeah.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
beautiful.
That was an absolute delight. That was so absolutely delightful. And to anyone listening, especially, and I'm gonna give this back to you, Julie, to tell people where to find you. But Leaf People in general, just the fact that you are who created this, you are who runs this, you are who uses every single bit of your lived experience, the Akashic realm, Reiki, the planet,
Mhm.
to infuse things to help people not only just have good, proper skincare, but also to have things that fill them and provide them with a grounded, centered, love, heart focused way to celebrate themselves and others. I'm so grateful that you are someone who is doing this work and someone who is creating something so that we can have nice things. It's just we can have
Mhm.
nice things, and all I really hope is that everything that you are doing and everything that you have already done and everything you will continue to do continues to spread and continues to just be that example for others. And I'm so grateful that I got an opportunity to speak with you today. I'm so grateful that I got an opportunity to read your records and have an opportunity to talk to and channel through your guides. Is there anything else that you would like to say to any listeners? And please tell us where they can find your wonderful products.
Well, I think in terms of what to say to listeners, it's it's so important to, yeah, kind of cut the noise so that you can really like, so you can hear these beings, so you can hear the planet, so you can hear your own, inner rhythm, your own heartbeat, your own intuition, but also, the other entities that coexist here with us that are hugely beneficial and supportive and have kind of just been they just it's like they get swept away
Yeah.
in all of the, like, noise and distraction and the lower vibration and frequencies. Like, it's very hard for them to exist. And so I think as people, in this form, the more that we can kind of let some of that go
Mm.
so that we can really, truly hear and connect, that will have such a profound impact on all beings, not just
Right.
human beings, but like all beings. And it's such an important thing, I think, to find some kind of practice, whatever that is, that will help you do that.
Yeah.
I think that is truly, truly key to this life, to why we're
Yeah.
here. And yeah, and then you can find me. Our Instagram is at Leaf People Skincare. We are on YouTube as well. Website is leafpeople.com. Um, and Facebook there as well, and things. But I would say Instagram is probably our most active. And then stay tuned. Sign up on our newsletter. Um, on our website because, as you know, we didn't touch about it in this podcast, but I'll be starting a podcast soon as well. And that type of information will all go out through our newsletter. So like new things we're doing, new projects we're working on, new things that we're releasing, not necessarily just products, but like things that I'm doing as this business evolves, as my relationship with the botanicals evolves. It will come through that newsletter. So that would probably be the best way to like get those types of updates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie. And thank you all so much for watching and for listening. Please go to leafpeople.com for all your skincare needs. And please sign up for the newsletter because it is just going to be everything that you're going to love getting. You're going to love it. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.